Hello, my dear art friends. Today, I am happy to provide you with the new episode of my art podcast, How is the Art Scene Ticking? I am talking with Tayla Camp. Tayla is an US citizen living in Berlin, and we had a lot of fun while talking. She will explain us why she doesn't see herself as an influencer in art, even if she has over 14,500 followers on Instagram. We are talking about the social media world and how it changed during the last years. Tayla lets us know about her extensive movements around the globe and how she ended up in the art world. She is starting up her own business as a pop-up gallery in Berlin. And you may just get there as she is opening an interesting show on September the 6th. Just when I start interviewing artists on the Swiss Art Expo in Zurich. Good luck for the both of us and have fun while listening. How is the art scene ticking? Everything we always wanted to know about art. A podcast of Petra Lossen. Hallo, Tayla Camp.
Hello, Petra Lossen.
Hi.
Hi.
Tayla, I'm very, very happy to have you here in my podcast for this episode. Thanks for taking your time.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. Tayla, you are an extremely beautiful woman. And your body is covered by a lot of tattoos. Did you ever count? Did you ever count how many tattoos you have?
No, I kind of lost count. It's kind of more like one giant tattoo at this point. They all kind of blend in together. So I think I would count more the hours, which actually I can't count the hours. It's too many. So I just say it's just one big tattoo that took many, many years. Let's say that.
Okay. Something like a collection, huh?
I guess so, yes.
Yeah. And when did you start with the tattoos? How old have you been?
I was 18th. It was on my 18th birthday, and my mother took me to a tattoo shop that she had also been tattooed in, and my sister also, and we were friends with the artist, and it was kind of like a family gathering, and everyone was there when I got my first one.
Okay. And are you still working on your giant tattoo?
I am. I'm taking a little bit of a break. I'm taking a few years off. I don't have much more that I want to do. I do want to have a large back piece that will tie into the work that I already have. But then after that, I'm finished.
Yeah. I mean, there's a point, then it's finished.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not right. There's some guys, they start to color the eyes and such things. But please don't do it because you are so beautiful.
Thank you. And I don't intend to do that. I actually don't like the process of being tattooed very much. It hurts. It's not fun. And I've had some pretty painful areas, and I've gotten the most painful parts out. Nothing more than that. So nowhere near the eyes.
Oh, yeah. I have no single tattoo, so I only can imagine how it hurts on some places in your body when it's close to the bone, right? That's hurting.
Actually, that's not the most painful. It really just depends on each individual person. But for example, I have my elbow tattooed, and that didn't hurt at all almost. But then some fleshy areas like in the inner arm, just below, like on the bicep, the inner bicep, that fleshy area, that was some of the worst pain ever.
Really?
And I have my head tattooed as well. You can't see it anymore, but I used to have an undercut, and I got the entire area of my head on the sides and on the back tattooed. And that was pretty painful, but the inner part of the arm was even more painful than that. So that's saying something.
When you did the tattoos, did you take some medicine against the pain?
No,
Is this
no.
possible? Is it helpful?
I think you can. I think there are some creams you can take. But I
Ah,
was always worried about the effects of the tattoo with the cream. I think it doesn't have any effect, especially nowadays. You can take it and I'm sure it won't affect, but I was just always worried. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just here. I'll just suck it up. I'll just do it. It's going to be over in a few hours.
go through it.
Yeah. I don't know though. Maybe on the back I will take a cream. Who knows? But
It's part of the job.
yeah.
Now they are like your babies. You've born them under pain or something like that.
Yeah.
Taylor, you are an influencer and that is the challenge of it, you are an influencer in art. That is really something special. You have more than 14,500 followers on Instagram. And I would like to talk with you how this did start and how you got there.
Sure.
You have 2 bachelor's degree in history and communication from the University of Southern California, and you were born in Atlanta, right?
No. Okay, that's a few things I need to answer.
Okay. Oh, already.
Well,
Okay.
so I have a really complex hometown issue where I was born in New Jersey, but I left New Jersey when I was 6 months old. And I grew up in Hawaii the first 6 years of my life. And then my family and I moved to Okinawa, Japan. And I was raised primarily there from ages of 6 to 11. And then I moved to Southern Virginia for a few years. And then we moved back to Okinawa. And I stayed in Okinawa until I was 16 years old. And then I moved to Atlanta. And
Ah,
I consider myself from Atlanta because that's honestly where I consider home. That's where I have family. That's where I go when I'm, for example, going on.
oh
When I'm going
yeah.
back to the States, I always go to Atlanta and see my mother and my family and my friends from high school. So yeah, I say I'm from Atlanta, but I was raised abroad mostly.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Well, you have seen a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, but later on we will talk how you ended up in Berlin.
Sure.
So, in history and communication, and you have a master's degree in museum studies from UCL in London.
Mhm.
I'm wondering what was the content of these studies?
Oh, at UCL. So I did a museum studies master's there, and that just generally provides an overview of all of the different facets of running a museum. And it can be any kind of museum from acquisitions to collection management to marketing, administration, financials, and so on. And so
So
that's how
cool.
I got involved in museums. Yes.
Yeah, very, very cool. And then you made a collections intern as a marketing assistant. Is this right? Did I understand that right? At the
Yes.
Wallace collection?
Yes. So when I was still enrolled in UCL, I started an internship in the collections department at the Wallace Collection. And the wonderful thing about that was my favorite museum, even before
Okay.
I applied for that internship. And yeah, I learned about the Wallace and I credit the Wallace for kind of igniting my love affair with art and art history. Because before that, I was a history major. I loved history and I loved stories. And when I was studying history at USC, there wasn't a whole lot of emphasis on art history. Of course, we had a couple of modules, but that wasn't really the focus. And it was very bland. I didn't, it that taking those courses didn't ignite this love of mine. That happened when I went to the Wallace. And I did study abroad in London when I was still an undergrad. And when I was there, a friend of mine who had also done the same program, she recommended that I visit the Wallace. And so I did. And this was in 2012. I went there and it was Halloween. And so I had like devil horns on and I had orange and black synthetic dreadlocks, which was my look back then.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I took a selfie in one of these gilded mirrors with an actual digital camera. But I didn't even have like an iPhone back then. So
Okay, yeah.
I took this, and just looking at that picture that I took so long ago, I just fell in love with that place. I spent hours there. And then, at 3 years, I go back and I land an internship at their collections department. So when I got it, I was ecstatic and it was like a dream come true.
Yeah.
And then while I was interning there, I had to make money. And so I started working in their gift shop and in the cloakroom.
Yeah.
And eventually the position opened up on their marketing team as a communications assistant. And I applied for it and I got it. And that's what jump-started my career in the art world, so to speak. And because I was there, I was there almost every day. If I wasn't interning, I was working and I was picking up extra shifts, working events. And so I was there all the time, and I was there surrounded by some of the most beautiful works of art in the world. And when I was working in the gift shop, I had access to all of their books. They had an amazing library there. And
this is fantastic.
Not a library, bookshop. You have to pay for them.
Yeah. Can I work here? I give you some money.
Exactly. But whenever there was downtime, if there was no one in there, I could just crack open a book and I just got to read. And I got to read about the works that are on the walls in the very museum that I was in. And so I just learned everything I could. And that's why I credit the Wallace for everything, because it really, I don't know if I would have found this passion that I have for Wallace if I didn't have that experience there.
Yeah. What art is in the collection?
It is primarily 18th century art, like 18th century Rococo. That's kind of what they're known for, more or less. For example, one of their famous paintings is Fragonard's The Swing. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite paintings. And what I love about art and art history specifically is I like stories. I studied history because I like stories. I like learning how things were. I like learning about how people behaved and what life was like, and learning about situations. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I really like that. And the type of art that I like is art that, tells a story as well, and hidden meanings and symbolism. If you know about what this means, then you can infer what the whole painting is all about. And I like paintings where you can learn about the artist, you can learn about, the subjects, you can learn about a specific place, you can learn about fashion, you can learn about so much from just one painting. And that's one of those paintings where at a surface level, you just see a woman on a swing in a garden, but then when you know the backstory behind it, and when you really look a little closely, you see some very, very cheeky behavior happening, and it just makes me laugh. It's it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. I guess it was a real great experience, and I can imagine I would have felt nearly the same like you felt. And then you became a social media manager for Smartify. And now this is very interesting to hear the story or your experiences, because Smartify, that is like Shazam for art. How does it work?
Yes, that's kind of how they build themselves, is this Shazam for art, because, when you're out and you hear a song that you like, you Shazam it, and then immediately on your phone, you get the artist and the title. The same concept applies to their app, which is if you go to a partner museum and you hold up your phone, the app in front of the painting that you want to learn about, it scans it, and then it brings you back information about the work. You'll have the basic information, and often you'll have kind of extended interpretation included. So it really is just like Shazam for art, like, oh, that's cool, I want to learn about it. Boom, there you go.
Okay, cool. I don't have it, but I will change it. And then you've been also worked for AAMC, for the Association of Art Museum Curators, as an administrator, and you've been a marketing manager, and you are now starting, or already started, your own business as the owner and the curator of Camp Space. But we will talk about that later on. So
Okay.
now you ended up in Berlin. And
Mhm.
I know, dass du ganz gut Deutsch sprichst.
Eigentlich
Jetzt
ist mein Deutsch nicht so gut.
doch, es
Es
ist
ist sehr
ganz
peinlich, wenn ich
süß.
auf Deutsch spreche.
Doch, 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 wir können.
Ja, ich habe Deutsch gelernt. Ich habe vor 3 Jahren Deutsch gelernt. Also wenn ich erstmal nach Deutschland umgezogen bin, habe ich eine intensive Kurse gemacht. Also das war 2 Monate nur Deutsch. Jeden
Ja,
Tag 5 Stunden pro Tag Deutsch lernen. Und das hilft
super.
mir sehr. Aber das war vor 3 Jahren und in mein tägliches Leben, besonders in Berlin, spreche ich nicht so viel Deutsch. Und yeah, so I have a little bit, it embarrasses me a bit to speak German because when I finished this intensive course, I spoke German quite well, probably almost at the C1 level, but in 3 years, I haven't spoken it so much and I have seen it get worse
Yeah,
and
but
worse. So it's
yeah,
a little
yeah.
embarrassing now.
Yeah, I know it when I can speak. I could speak Italian because in the first years of my life I stayed in Sardinia, and afterwards when I grew up, but still a young lady, I started to relearn Italian at home by myself with a book,
Mm,
and I was able to speak quite well. But after using the language, you miss the words, and
mm.
ja, es ist traurig. Es ist
Yeah,
schade.
this
So,
is sad.
das,
Yeah,
ja, ja.
shame.
Aber
Yeah.
ich werde jetzt nicht deinen Teacher spielen. So we talk in English, and if I struggle with some words, then just say it in German, and you can tell me if you understand it or not.
Okay, I will do it.
We'll
I hope
make
I
it.
can. Ich hoffe, ich hoffe.
Ja, ich auch. Also, von wo bist du dann nach Berlin gekommen und wann? Wie lange bist du in Berlin? Also 3 Jahre ist es her, oder?
3 Jahre oder vielleicht fast 4 Jahre. Oh, ja, das war Oktober 2019 habe ich nach Deutschland
Vor der
umgezogen.
Pandemie.
Yeah.
Oh,
I moved originally to Hamburg because I have family. My aunt and my cousins live in Hamburg. And so I moved there, and that's where I was able to take my German lessons, and I wanted to get acclimated a bit. And then I moved to Berlin 1 week. No, yeah, 1 week after the lockdown.
oh no.
Yes.
You came to Berlin 1 week after the lockdown. Okay, so you
Yes,
already
because
knew your court.
Yes, because I had my apartment, everything was set up. I moved all of my
Yeah,
things here. So I had to drive here and then I moved and then everything, I mean, we were all inside. So I was
yeah,
imagining, I had already quite a few friends here and I was imagining this great welcome and being able to spend time with my friends. But no, I just moved and I moved straight into my apartment and then we were all stuck inside. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Has it been a hard time for you? I mean, in a new city, sitting in an apartment. I mean, yeah, well, if you're in the apartment, caught in an apartment, it doesn't matter where this apartment is. You are alone with yourself, right?
Exactly. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it was difficult for everybody, but yeah, I have a good support system here. I had been coming back and forth to Berlin for years since I was living in London.
yeah.
So I had friends and, that were supportive by phone. And of course, if I was feeling homesick, I could always call home. I had the experience I think that everyone had in the beginning where we were unsure of what was going on and we were all trying to stay safe and stay inside. So I don't think my experience was very unique.
Okay, yeah, understand. And you left the US to come to Berlin, is this right?
Yes. Yes.
And
I had wanted to move here for a while.
yeah, for why? May I ask you why? Why did you choose Berlin?
I just really liked it. I had come here. So the summer before I started grad school, I spent 2 months in Germany, and most of that was spent at a work stay project in Rathenau,
Yeah.
Rathenau, Rathenau. And but on the weekends, I was working there during the week, but on the weekends, I would come to Berlin, and I had some friends here, and I really loved it. I loved the pace. I loved the creativity. I loved the people. I loved everything about it. And I always thought about it when I moved to the UK. I was coming back like every couple of months, I would come back. And I thought, okay, if I ever get the opportunity, or I don't know, I gotta move there. I gotta move there one day. So I have been planning it for a while. And then finally at the end of 2019, I was able to move to Germany.
Great. Tayla, and you ended up in art. That's why we are now talking together. That's why we are here together. Tayla, why art?
Well, yeah, that's so hard to put into words. I would say more how I got into art, and that's through art history. And how I got into art history is from my love of history in general. And I mentioned earlier that I love history so much. I love learning about the past. And learning about art history is just learning about the past, but with pictures. And it's fun.
Yeah.
And, a lot of things are subjective, but a lot of things about art history and paintings from the past, it really is just a snapshot into how the world used to be. And that's just how I got into art, is just being obsessed with paintings that I learned and it allowed me to learn about the past. And I liked the way that made me feel. I liked the way that I could feel something just from looking at a painting, looking at a work of art, looking at sculpture. I liked that feeling. And then I realized, because for a long time, I kind of cornered myself into this art history bubble where I only cared about, pre-20th century art. I only cared about learning about art from the past. And then I thought, wait, that's not okay. There's a lot to learn about today. People have things to say about today. And when you surround yourself with works of art actually produced by living artists, you learn a whole lot more about yourself and about the world around you, around myself. So yeah, I guess that's a long-winded answer. But
it's fine.
Art, I just like the way it makes me feel. And I like learning about people and places and ideas, concepts through art.
Yeah, it's the same to me. I'm now wondering, and then you got an influencer, and as I said, an influencer in art, which is something special. And with more than 14,500 followers. And I would like to know, how did you got this influencer in art with so many followers? Why do they following you?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't consider myself an influencer per se. This is what I wanted to mention earlier, because in my mind, the definition of an influencer is someone who gets paid more or less to promote products. And I don't think that I do that. Well, I certainly don't do that. I don't get paid for anything.
Yeah.
But what happened was, I love art, and I love learning about art, and I love writing about art. And a few years ago, I don't know, several years ago now, actually, I just started sharing artworks that I liked and then writing about them, writing my thoughts, my own interpretation, my opinion on kind of how these works are normally interpreted. Maybe I agree, maybe I don't agree with them. Maybe I was offering different perspectives on certain works. And I don't know, people just resonated with that. And Instagram used to be a different place, a very different place than it is today. The algorithm is very, very sophisticated now, and they've tightened up a lot of the restrictions on what you can and cannot say, the censorship. But years and years ago, when it was a little bit less strict, you could swear in your captions, you could write about anything you wanted, basically. And, they didn't do anything. It wasn't banned. It wasn't a shadow bannable offense. And so I would write very, I wouldn't say crass, but I would just write about art in the way that I would talk to my friends about it. Like, oh, I really
Yeah.
like that working shit, or like, I don't like this, I don't know if I can swear here. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
sorry. But I would just write captions and I would write about artworks in the way that was very, very, that was just like common vernacular. I would avoid art speak, and I still avoid art speak, but yeah, in a very casual way. And I think people really identified with that. And most of the people who follow me and followed me, especially back then, were not knowledgeable that much about art history. And this was kind of a bridge for them to learn about different genres of art, different artists, different perspectives that maybe they wouldn't have experienced otherwise. And
yeah.
so I think people just identified with that. And I don't know how it grew. I got a really big boost when a very, very large history account that I loved and followed, it's like History Cool Kids, but they've got like millions of followers,
Yeah.
millions. And they reposted me one time. And after that, I got so many
Ah,
followers.
how cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
History of Cool Kids.
Yeah, I think it's History Cool Kids.
It's a nice name for the account.
hmm
Yeah, I had something similar last week or 2 weeks ago already. And there was a New York rapper
hmm
and he with many, many followers, and he liked a comment of mine. And then I got, oh, he's following you, he's following you. I mean, I never focused on Instagram, so you can see that I have just a few followers. But my situation, as you described it for Instagram, for me, it was the same with LinkedIn.
mm.
And then they sold LinkedIn. I guess it's now owned by Google or Microsoft. I don't know. Sie haben eingeführt ihre Logarithmus und das war das aus. Now
Oh.
I only have 2, 3, 4, 5 likes. And before it was more than 100 and so on. That's sad. Yeah. Yeah, they want to make
Yeah.
money. That's it.
I mean, the whole social media landscape has changed
Yeah.
dramatically in the last few
Yeah.
years. And, even with my Instagram, the level of engagement that I get is a fraction of what it used to be because they've pivoted what they value and the type of content that they promote. And if you don't make that switch to video content and reels, then you kind of get buried. And, I really love writing about art, but I'm not much of a public speaker. And to me, creating video content is like public speaking, except it could potentially be seen by thousands of people. It's even
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
So I did not pivot into that kind of content because it doesn't come that naturally to me. Now, of course, I see the value in it and I do try from time to time. And as because I've opened this gallery, then there is an extra incentive to lean into this type of content. But I definitely see the difference in the engagement over the last couple of years.
It's so interesting, these stories. That is why I love this podcast. It's more or less the same. What I'm learning by these discussions with the artists or people in the art business, that's amazing. I love it. You mentioned that you started your own business. And the business is Camp Space. That is the name. And Camp Space, it's a pop-up gallery.
Yes.
Could you explain us what it is and how it works? And yeah, when did you start it? Where are you now? All these things.
Sure. So, yes, the gallery is called Camp Space. I love my last name. My last name is Camp. And so I wanted to incorporate it into the gallery and the branding. And, we're a pop-up gallery, so we'll be moving from place to place. We'll be very transient. And that's kind of like a camp space. You can a camp space is wherever you want to pitch a tent and call home for a little while. So, and yeah, we are a pop-up gallery, and my goal is to spotlight emerging artists, particularly women and particularly people of color, because I am a woman and I relate to many works by women. And I'm a person of color, and so I relate to a lot of works by people of color. That's what I have a vested interest in. And I've always wanted to curate a show. I've always wanted to be a curator, but you're familiar with the art world. It is cutthroat. There are very, very few positions and a lot of people vying for these positions. And so I never had the opportunity to do it professionally, but I've always had a passion for it. And then I realized I don't have to wait for anyone's permission to do it. I don't have to wait for someone to hire me to curate a show. I can just do it.
Do it by yourself. Exactly. If no one is calling, I'm doing it. That's
exactly.
Cool. Very cool.
And so, it's been in the back of my mind for ages, and it took quite a while to save and to figure out how I'm going to do it and to gather the resources for this. I mean, I still have my day job. I work a full-time job in fashion. And so
in fashion.
Yes. I pivoted away from the art world when I moved here. And so now I work in fashion, but
what are you, sorry, what are you doing in the fashion job?
I'm a marketing manager. I'm an acquisition marketing manager for Savage X Fenty. It's the lingerie brand, which is owned by Rihanna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You look a bit like her.
I'm not sure. She's on a different level.
You can say, hi, sister.
Yeah, but we have now 4 EU storefronts. So yeah, I own all of the acquisition marketing for all of the EU storefronts. And we're based here. The headquarters is based here in Berlin. So that's my day job. And so I was like, by day, marketing manager, by night, curator / gallerist.
Yeah. And how about sleeping?
I squeeze in a few hours here and there.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, but it's tough. And I'm pretty sure there will be a day you earn the fruits. Or how do you say in English? You earn the seeds?
Was it the fruits of our labor? Fruits of my labor.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Okay. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
It's okay. Yeah. So when it was around December of last year, December of last year, when I finally realized that I was in the position where I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And the beauty of having a pop-up gallery is that, I don't need a permanent gallery. That's a lot of overhead. And I wanted to reduce the amount of stress that I would be giving myself. And I wanted this to be really fun and really light. And I like the idea of moving from place to place and curating shows that are specific to new spaces and seeing how they would all differ from one another and what challenges could arise from moving into a new space. And so, that's how the idea kind of solidified. And then 2 friends of mine are actually, several of my friends are incredible artists. But when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for my first show, I had 2 artists in mind specifically. And so I approached them at the end of last year and I asked them if they wanted to start this journey with me. I'm a first-time gallerist. This is going to be a pop-up gallery. This is my first show. Are you interested in working with me? And they said yes. And we've kind of approached this in a non-conventional way. I was familiar with their work, of course, but I asked them if they would be down to produce entirely new works for the show. And if we could kind of figure out together what we want to do, what story we want to tell. And I knew at the time that we were all 3 going through some issues. I knew that we were going through a period of mental hardship, and I wanted to.
I didn't understand that. What is the meaning of it?
Yeah, I'm trying to find. We were having mental crises, and maybe a shared sense of melancholy.
Also geistige Krisen habt ihr.
Yeah,
Okay.
nice.
Oh.
I hope that translates better.
It sounds funny, but it's not feeling funny, I know. Yeah, and of course you are having this because it's a startup.
Yeah, but this was not to do with opening the gallery. This was just to do with life and things that we were all going through in our own separate lives. And so when I, finally realized that, like, okay, I can do this, and I approached them, and we were talking about the show, and I needed to give them some guidance as to the works. I was just like, why don't we incorporate what we're feeling right now into the show? Why don't we incorporate how we're navigating these issues into the show? And it just, another way to say it is like, they just painted about it, they were going through some things and they painted about it. And every step of the way, I was there, and with each new work, I was there and speaking with them and looking at it and seeing the journey from where we were when we started and started painting these works, and the journey and the transformation and how they've navigated these various issues. You can really see the story. Roxanne's painted 5 new works, and Sky has painted 6 new works from that conversation. And you can really see the progression from clearly dealing with some personal issues to working through those issues and coming out triumphant on the other side. And that's, I think, is so special. These works didn't exist before this show. And we had, kind of a shared crisis, and we worked through it together. And now we can tell that story through art. And I think I think it's really, really special. It's really special. We're all so connected to this show. We're all so connected to these works. It's just seeing something created from scratch. And I mean, they've been prolific. They produced all of this within 7-8 months, and these are such beautiful, beautiful works. So
Yeah.
it's been a process, but it's been a really, really wonderful process.
Which 2 persons do we talk about?
Yes, so maybe I should mention their names.
At one point.
Yes, of course. So Roxanne Crum and Sky. Sky prefers only to be referred to as a first name.
Yeah.
And so they are both Berlin-based. Sky is from Lithuania, and Roxanne is from the US.
Yeah.
And we actually met at an art show 2 years to the day almost. We met during an event at Berlin Art Week a couple of years ago, and became friends after that. And I became more and more familiar with their work. And, when I had this concrete idea to open the gallery and to curate the show, they were the first ones I approached. And it was the best thing I could have done.
Yeah, you said that du sagst, du stellst emerging artists aus in dem Space Camp, Camp Space.
Camp Space.
Camp Space. Vielleicht lasse ich auch drin, weil es witzig ist. Why did you choose them? Not only because you became friends, right?
Yeah, so I was very, very familiar with their work. And I also knew that they were able to sell their works directly on Instagram, but they had never had a gallery show before. They'd never shown in an exhibition. Okay. And I knew that, one, their work complements each other. And I knew we would have a wonderful story to tell, all 3 of us. And I really, really loved their work. It wasn't because we were friends. It was for all of these other reasons. Okay. And I thought it would be interesting to have a first-time gallerist with 2 artists who have never been a part of an exhibition in a physical space before, so that it would be a learning experience for all 3 of us. We start this journey together, and we can really support and rely on each other and build each other up. And that's exactly what's happened. So.
And these 2 ladies, are they partners to you, or will you change in the future the artists you are exhibiting, that you
Um,
will exhibit?
yes. I would like to work with various artists, with more artists. That isn't to say that we wouldn't have another exhibition together in the future, but I would. I mean, I like learning, and I like, being exposed to new art, and I like meeting new people, and I want to know their stories, and I want to find a way to share those stories. So I would like to expand the artists that I'm working with.
Yeah, yeah, that's understandable. Complete. And how many exhibitions per year are you planning to do?
I am planning to have four exhibitions. No, sorry, two exhibitions a year.
Yeah,
Two
four is tough
exhibitions,
for a startup. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
it's yeah, it's not so easy. You need to be realistic. You need to, I mean, to do the third, the 10th exhibition needs less time than to do the first and the second and the third.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And this is still a learning experience for me. And it is very much my passion and my passion project, and I hope it becomes more than that in the future, but I'm very
yeah,
aware of where we are now. And I think two
yeah,
exhibitions a year is entirely realistic, and that will allow me to give it 100% everything that I have.
yeah, yeah. And to grow too fast is not a good point.
Not
It's
always a
not. It's not good.
good
I mean, it's
exactly.
good, but it's not good.
Yeah.
No, you have the date. It is in September, as I remember. So you
Yes.
have the place. Where's the place? What is it? What did you find?
So it is an unmarked gallery on Brunenstrasse.
What is an unmarked gallery?
It's just an empty gallery. It doesn't
Oh,
belong. There's no other branding around it. It's just an empty
abandoned.
gallery space.
An
Not
abandoned.
abandoned. Not abandoned. It is maintained, but it's just an open space so that a lot of different curators can show
Rented.
exhibitions there.
Ah, yeah.
Exactly. Um,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and it's Brudenstrasse 22. And the exhibition, the Vernissage, is on the 6th of September.
Oh, that's the date where I will be in the Swiss Art Expo on stage live, talking to artists, young artists, unknown artists. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm nervous.
Oh,
And,
you shouldn't be nervous. You've been doing this for a while. I'm
yeah,
nervous. This is my first time doing anything like this.
yeah, I know how you feel. I mean, can you imagine my first recording? And it was, oh my goodness, I was so nervous. Really, I was so nervous. And it took me months to set up this podcast. And well, yeah, now I'm an old bird in this business.
You are
Old.
an expert at this now. That's all you have to say.
Thank you, very kind.
I hope I have a few more interviews in the future, and then I will be an expert too.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it will be like this. Yeah, you have to go through these things when you get nervous and when you're scared, and yeah, that's when you start something. That's the
Mhm.
what we have to pay.
Yes. It's a small price to pay to follow my dreams, so I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what you get out of it when you get just a single small piece of success, that's the best ever.
Yeah. And how I view success in this is I just want to see that someone is feeling something so deeply from an exhibition that I've put on. Like they come in and I'm talking about the works and discussing the background and the motivation behind it and the context. And I see something flick in their eyes that's like, wow, I really understand that, or I identify with that, or I connect with that, and I enjoy that, or this is where I am. Just this feeling of connection. And this small like dopamine boost, that's what I got from my Instagram. That's why I was doing it, seeing the comments and people like, wow, I never knew that. Or like, wow, I never thought about it that way. Or like, this is so cool. Like, I love that. I lived for that feeling of being able to communicate.
Yeah.
It's why I enjoy something so much, and then seeing it reflected back.
Yeah. When we talk about art history, to get back to your studies, art history, usually if you burn for these things, then you burn for it. Then it's okay. But many people don't burn for these things. And they don't want to read these dry books, how they talk about these things. And this is so, to get through it. That's painful. So it's a very good idea to teach these things in a different way. So I just had a conversation with Tina Sauerländer. She was my last publication in a podcast publication. And we were talking about these VR headsets, VR glasses. And there is a opportunity, so many ways to teach these wonderful things in a very interesting way. Yeah. So one is in Instagram, to short videos. That's the way how you learn languages today. 10 minutes lessons. So art history in 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I see a lot of this content where, that's just bite-sized facts and stories about art history and history also. And I always enjoy them so much. And I feel like I've learned so much more about art history and history than through these.
Then it's school. Wonderful school.
Maybe not entirely, but I mean, a lot of things that I just didn't know about. It creates a spark. It gives me a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that. And then I go and then I read more about it, externally. Yeah, I think without this, I think many people wouldn't be exposed to so much educational content, than if it wasn't on social media.
Yeah. Do you have an idea about your next exhibition? Are you clear with the artist you're working with or something like that? Or are you just now focused on the next one? I mean, we are short before. Now, today we are recording on the 20th of August. So there's only 3 weeks or 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh my goodness. Oh.
No, I'm ready. We're all ready. We're all excited, and it's gonna be really fun. And I have been thinking about the next show. I have an idea that I want to explore. I don't know that I want to share it just yet, but I have been thinking about the show, and I've become much more confident in this process than 8 months ago, 9 months ago, when I was thinking about what we're doing for this show. Yeah, so I don't know that I want to share it, but
no, don't do it, because if it's not in trockenen Tüchern, then it's better to not talk about it. I mean,
exactly.
Imagine they listen to this podcast and they don't know yet that they will be part. Okay, not now, not like this. Okay. Tayla, I'm very happy. It was a nice conversation with you. Thank you so much for taking your time. And I will think of you on the 6th when I'm on stage in Zurich. And maybe not, because I'm nervous.
Yeah, you'll have to focus.
Exactly. Thank you so much. It was really great talking to you and learning about you. Have a great day.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. And it was a pleasure. And yes, have a good day as well.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye, Tayla.
Bye-bye.
How is the art scene ticking? Everything we always wanted to know about art. A podcast of Petra Lossen.